Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do solving and graphing inequalities. For most of you, this is going to be a review. For some of you, this might look a little new, and for others, it's going to be a good refresher. Inequalities. Inequalities are when it's not necessarily equal to. You have a range of answers or solutions, we call them. Okay. And then just quickly going over the inequality signs, which we did earlier in the year. Is less than, looks like this, is greater than, is less than or equal to. Alright, similar to the less than sign, but with the line underneath, is greater than or equal to. Okay, which means our solution can be greater than or equal to the amount given. Okay. Alright, so real quick, we would say the first one is x is greater than 6. B is less than or equal to -3. Okay, and this one right here, we could say two different things. Okay, we could say that 5 is greater than A, or we could flip it around, including the inequality sign, and say that A is less than 5. Okay, similar to these, we could also flip these around too. Okay, now what we're going to do here in this lesson is we're going to talk about inequalities, but we're also going to learn how to graph them. Okay, for instance, if we were to look at A is less than or equal to 5, well, that means that A has to be any number that is here, any of these numbers on our number line, all these numbers. So A could be 4, it could be 3, it could be 2, 1, -3, it could be 0.5 right here, okay, or any decimal point. All right, and we're going to look to learn how to graph these. All right, so for the first one, we have x is less than or equal to 1. Okay, now the rule for graphing is first, we're going to plot a point on the number given. Okay, and that point can be either one or two things. It could be an open dot, or it could be a closed dot or solid. Okay? Oops. Alright, the difference being, if it's an open dot, it does not include the number. Okay? And we'll look at that in a minute. Open dot means it's less than or greater than. It's not equal to. A closed dot would mean that it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to the number. Alright, it includes that number. So for the first one, we have x is less than or equal to 1. So we're going to draw a closed dot because our answer could be 1. Alright, and any number less than 1. So we're talking about all the numbers over here. Okay, so we're going to shade in the number line going this way. Alright, and that's how we graph this inequality. Okay, that means that any number that I just shaded could be a solution to this inequality. Alright, the key to this is, or a good strategy for this is, if you have the variable on the left side, like this, then just shade according to the arrow, or the inequality sign. The inequality sign is pointing left, so we're going to shade left. Alright, let's look at the next example. m is greater than -6, so we go to -6. And in this case, we're going to draw an open dot because it can't include -6. All right, because -6 is not greater than -6. It's the same thing, so that won't work. All right. Now we're greater than -6, so we're going to choose all the numbers that are greater than -6. And again, you can use the key to shade in the direction of the inequality sign. All right, -2 is less than b. Okay, and if you remember what I just said, we could flip this around. So we could say b is greater than -2. All right, just flip everything around. Okay, including the inequality sign. All right, so we go to -2. It's going to be an open dot because it can't include -2. And we're going to shade the numbers greater than -2. 4 is less than or equal to -n. All right, so we know that -n is less than or equal to 4. Now here's the trick. If it's a negative number, or sorry, negative variable, okay, if it's a negative variable, we're going to flip the inequality. Okay, when we divide by a negative. So negative n is less than or equal to 4. Okay, we can look at as similar to negative n is equal to 4. Okay, what we do when we have this situation is we could divide by -1 because there's like the invisible 1 in front of the n. Divide by -1 and we get n equals -4. Or, you know, if you want to be smart about it, if negative n is 4, then positive n is -4. It's the same thing. Okay, so we know that positive n is greater than -4. Okay, make sure we flip the inequality sign when we have a negative variable. Okay, so we go to -4. It's greater than or equal to, so it's going to be a solid dot, and we're going to shade to the right. Okay, we're going to go over this a little bit more further on. Okay, so the key is if you have a negative variable, okay, divide and then flip the sign. If the variable is positive, you don't have to worry about flipping the sign. Okay, so in this case we have -r is less than or equal to -2. So positive r is greater than or equal to +2. All right, so we go to +2, draw a closed dot, and shade to the right. All right, now if we wanted to check to see if this works, see if this makes sense, let's choose one of the numbers that we shaded. Let's choose 4. Now let's plug in 4 for r to see if it works. Well, -4, okay, because we plugged in 4 for r, is less than or equal to -2. Does that make sense? Yes. All right, and if we plugged in 4 here, 4 is greater than or equal to 2. Does that make sense? Yes. All right, so we're good. Okay, lastly, we're going to have to take a graph and then come up with the equation. So let's start with a variable. Let's use x. Okay, and 5 is our number that has the dot on it. All right, and since it's a solid dot, we know it's or equal to. Okay, and if we're shading left, we're going to say it's less than. So we have x is less than or equal to 5. Alright, now we have an open dot, x, okay, it's at -2. Alright, and we're shading greater than -2, so it's greater than -2. Okay, good luck.